Hello everyone, I'm Zibboyeye, and in this video I'm gonna talk about the Christmas specials and movies that I am most nostalgic for. The ones that as a kid I thought it couldn't be Christmas without these, and the ones that as soon as I saw them on the channel guide, I knew it was Christmas. And also, one that I've hated since I was a child. Is it possible to be nostalgic for your hatred of something? I don't know, I guess we'll find out. But before you answer that, how about you answer this question? What Christmas specials and movies are you most nostalgic for? Type it down below, I love to see what you put. But anywho, let's get started with one of mine, which is Merry Christmas, Drake and Josh. You also might remember this movie as the time Josh had that scary haircut. I'm starting with this one because it's underlining a certain methodology I'm using when making this video. I have not seen Merry Christmas, Drake and Josh in years, possibly even over a decade. It's something that's been on the back burner for my girlfriend and I. Every Christmas we make a list of movies we think we should watch or to keep on the table to watch for Christmas. And Merry Christmas, Drake and Josh is always on there, but for some reason we often opt to watch something else instead. So I have not seen this in forever. So why is it on this list? Well, I can't talk about it in terms of content like usual on this channel, but I'm going to review my memories of watching this as a kid. If you saw my videos about TV shows that need physical media, you know why Drake and Josh is so important to me. It's the first sitcom I ever watched as a child. I think that I was aware that its finale was the series finale. I forget if I watched it in reruns or if I saw it and it was advertised as the season finale, but given its content, I think I realized that this was the ending of Drake and Josh. And they would pass the baton to iCarly, who is of course played by Miranda Cosgrove, who is also in Drake and Josh. Because of it, and the same producer, Dan Schneider, it felt like a passing of the baton. So it's weird to think that the baton was temporarily passed back while iCarly was airing. Yeah, Merry Christmas, Drake and Josh aired not while Drake and Josh was airing, but while its successor iCarly was airing. That's something I forgot about actually. But as a kid, I don't think it hit me how abnormal that was. I was just happy to see more Drake and Josh. I must have thought something like, oh, I guess Drake and Josh isn't over. I guess a show can just come back like this. How many shows can you think of that have come back for a special occasion? Very few, I bet. Merry Christmas, Drake and Josh is shot like Drake and Josh Go Hollywood. It's a cinematic movie. It's not a sitcom. There's no laugh track there, which I wish I could go back and ask myself as a kid what I thought of it. I don't remember finding it anything special. I must have thought, oh, this is a movie. Of course, movies don't have laugh tracks, but it really makes you think about the medium when you see the genre shift like this to completely a different style. While I didn't cognitively think about the genre shift as a kid, it must have been something that made it feel even more of an event for me. I remember I always set out to watch this whenever it aired, and I think that something like this can highlight the comedy of characters. It's not just relying on a laugh track for the jokes. Drake and Josh never really relied on it excessively. I think Drake and Josh still aged well. The jokes are still funny. And movies like this without a laugh track, especially without the fake laugh track that is synonymous with Nick-coms, the movies like this really proved it. I think the scene that I recall most is that Josh went to jail and Drake had to bust him out. Just some wild scenario that could only happen in a movie like this. I remember finding that very special as a kid. If once again I end up not watching it this Christmas with my girlfriend, there's always next Christmas. Now, my next most nostalgic Christmas special is A Charlie Brown Christmas. I'll be surprised if anyone hasn't grown up watching this one. This is one that I'm pretty sure I had on VHS. Every Christmas my mom would pop it in, probably several times, and I'd watch it. It's something that I think as a kid, It's probably harder to relate to Charlie Brown. As a kid, I remember just finding Christmas a bundle of joy and really loving the season, the music, the specials, and especially the cool weather in Texas. I really appreciated that. But for Charlie Brown in this special, Christmas has got him down. I think that that's something that you relate way more to as an adult, especially when you understand consumerism and other stuff like that. There's also something that this special gets that I don't think children who watch it get. As I said, as a kid, I loved Christmas, happiest time of the year, but as an adult, there's something that's a bit underlying about Christmas. Yeah, when you go around and see all the decorations and stuff, you're happy, but I find there's a certain loneliness, a certain somberness at night. And does anyone else feel that way? I still really enjoy Christmas, I just enjoy it as a different way as an adult. But there's also something about it, the year coming to a close, self-reflection of you in the year. There's something that I think the mood a Charlie Brown Christmas gets that I can really appreciate more as an adult. I think that feeling is perfectly encapsulated in the song in this, the do-do-do-do-do. There's also that moment where they just stop, the lights please moment, and they tell the story about baby Jesus. As a kid, I didn't realize just how special that was. As a kid, you just kind of accept the world as it is. But that was a pretty big deal for a cartoon to retell it that way back then. And I think that that's something that goes back to what I mentioned about mood. It's not just a cartoon about silly moments. It can just stop and have a quiet, personal moment, a quiet, sincere moment like that. A lot of people probably think, oh yeah, Charlie Brown, the football, the Red Baron, and oh, I Got a Rock. But this is one that I think you should probably rewatch as an adult. It's one that shouldn't be discounted as just a movie you watched as a child. This is a special that's worth rewatching. Next up is Frosty the Snowman, the original. This is one that was regularly in and out of my VHS player during Christmas. I don't remember a whole lot about this one. I remember liking it, but the most vivid thing I recall about this is one bit where the villain is hanging off the bottom of a train, and I thought that was really cool. I think as a 4-year-old, that was like a really cool action scene to me. It wasn't really, but I was like, whoa, what a concept. And now I just think of Sideshow Bob in Cape Fear.
I love these speed bumps. This coffee's too hot.
But an instance I remember more involves one of the sequels. No, not the one right after. I think it's the fourth one. I think it's one late 90s or early 2000s. It aired a lot on Cartoon Network. In fact, I think I probably saw this more than the original, at least on TV. As a kid, I remember liking it because it was an actual sequel to the first one. There's a reveal sometime in the movie where you realize that the kid is the child or something of a character from the first movie. There was a continuity, and as a kid that surprised me and I thought that was neat. So I remember liking it as a kid. Even though now it doesn't look that great, but I haven't seen it in forever. My main memory of it is as a child, I remember seeing it on Cartoon Network. So I asked my mom, hey mom, you want to watch Frosty the Snowman with me? And she was like, sure. And so I sat in front of the TV and turned it on, and she was like, what's this? This isn't Frosty the Snowman, and left. So I just had to watch my probably crappy direct-to-video sequel alone. Now this one is not an original feature, this is a special episode of a TV show. I'm talking about the Johnny Bravo Christmas special. My girlfriend and I have rewatched Johnny Bravo, I think this year, maybe last year, and realized that the fourth season isn't that great. Seasons 2 and 3 are the best, and the Christmas special is in the fourth season, but I think the Christmas special is probably the best episode of season 4. Season 4 episodes typically are slow paced, but I think this one feels better because there's more going on. It's about Johnny Bravo having to get to the North Pole, and that's enough to fill the time for what is there. I remember quite liking it last I saw it, which was just a couple of years back. Characteristic of Season 4, there's a guest star, but I think this is one of the best guest stars of Season 4. It's Donny Osmond, who, as a kid, I didn't recognize him. I think my mom and dad did, but I had no idea who he was. And it doesn't matter who he is, it's inconsequential to the episode because he's an annoyingly joyful, happy-go-lucky character that plays off of Johnny Bravo really well. And that's why I think he's one of the best guests of the show. It doesn't just feel like a guest for guest's sake, it feels like the comedy used between him and Johnny Bravo is actually funny in its own right. Most of the things on this list are original specials or features. But I think there's something that feels, well, special about a Christmas special in a TV show. You already see so much of a character's life in a TV show, so seeing what they do around Christmas time while you're around Christmas time, it's hard not to feel even closer to them. As a kid, you love Christmas, so if you see a cartoon you love celebrating Christmas, it's like peanut butter and jelly for you. It's the perfect combination. Which goes into my next pick, which is the Fairly Odd Parents Christmas special. I don't actually remember the title. I'm not talking about A Fairly Odd Christmas. I'm not talking about the live action one starring Drake Bell where Timmy's dad eats poo at the end. Don't believe me? You watch it. Even though, out of the live-action trilogy, it's probably the best one, but it's not one I'm nostalgic for. I'm talking about the Fairly Odd Parents Christmas episode, where Timmy Turner wishes every day could be Christmas, which is so relatable as a kid. I think that's something that probably every kid has wished for, and is why this is a classic to probably not just me, but everyone who grew up in the 2000s. Not to mention that Santa Claus and other holiday figures fit perfectly into the magic world of Fairly Odd Parents. My girlfriend and I rewatched a lot of the show a few years back, and it really made me appreciate how they developed that world, adding stuff like genies, pixies, anti-fairies, but it never felt bloated. They all had their little distinctions, and it just led to this surprisingly developed world in Fairly Odd Parents. I can't think of that many slice of life cartoons from back then that had this much of a world you could get into and recognize bits of continuity from. But I guess I'm widening my scope from the special to the whole show, which is a really great show. It's probably one of my favorites looking back. But let's narrow it back to the Christmas special. Another thing that makes it a classic to me is the song I Wish Every Day Could Be Christmas. Okay, I know I talked about narrowing my scope, but let's widen it back. If you look back at Fairly Odd Parents, especially that one musical movie, gosh, it has such a banging soundtrack. So many of the songs are great. Even like this one, I Wish Every Day Could Be Christmas, even when it's not December. Some days I'll go around the house and it'll just get stuck in my head. I wish every day could be Christmas.
I wish every day could be Christmas, 'cause Santa brings gifts every year.
Gosh, after I'm done recording, I'm gonna have to listen to that and then jam out to some Chip Skylark. Next up, we're going back into original works, or maybe not, it's based on a book. Whatever, I'm talking about The Polar Express. This is one that, as a kid, I found to be a pleasure to watch. I found so many of the sequences exciting, and there's even this one that goes really extra, that's this ticket flying through the air and then going past a pack of wolves that really is just to show off the tech of the movie, and also probably appeal to 3D. It's hard to talk about this movie and not talk about the tech behind it. It scared Hollywood for a bit, this motion capture, lifelike CGI. Actors were afraid that it was gonna replace them, and behind this charge was Back to the Future director Robert Zemeckis. He really tried to make this type of movie a thing, which just fell flat on its face. No one remembers Beowulf, Mars Needs Moms is a joke. Even though I can still watch Polar Express and enjoy it, I do think it just skates by on its Christmas cheer. And where's my proof? Well, a lot of people love this movie and are nostalgic for it, but no one feels that same way for A Christmas Carol, or as I call it, oh!
We were able finally to do what Charles Dickens wrote. You're gonna be jumping out of your seat.
If I saw old man Jim Carrey fly into my theater, I think I'd need to see The Ghost of Christmas Crapped Pants. What am I even talking about? But that shows the tenuous appeal of these movies. The Polar Express I like. I think a lot of its exciting sequences, last I saw it, were still amusing. But is it a great movie? I think it's good, but I think a lot of it comes down to its Christmas cheer. It's hard not to feel good about it. I remember that one time watching it with my grandma, and probably a lot of parents got a kick out of this one, the kid on the Elf monitor saying, "I didn't do it." I do appreciate plot lines like the poor kid who's afraid he might not get a Christmas. Actually, perhaps I am a bit too hard on this movie. I do think that there is substance there. It's just obvious that a lot of it is intrigue to investors. This is the future, mocap. Ooh, look at this ticket fly around. Look at the CGI quality. But I do think that there is something there beyond just the spectacle of it. But it does make me wonder how much I'd like it if I didn't already have this attachment from when I watched it as a kid. Oh, also speaking of, this might have been the first media that I ever recognized a voice actor from. Yeah, the kid with glasses, he's obviously Mandark. I think this is the first time that I recognized a correlation like that as a kid. Next up is the Santa Claus. Yeah, I think this would be a hard sell to investors, probably even back then. So what's your movie? Well, Tim Allen kills Santa Claus and then takes his job. But it's one that still holds up to me. Now, yes, the plot doesn't make much sense. How can Santa Claus exist, yet the adults in the movie think he doesn't exist? How do they explain where the presents come from? Yes, the premise doesn't make so much sense, but as a kid you don't think about it, and yeah, I will say it, it's the magical Christmas cheer that can make a Christmas movie just a bit better than it probably really is. I mean, beyond viewers, it's one Hollywood certainly loved. It got 2 sequels. They practically reused the same idea for Shaggy Dog. Tim Allen is a crappy dad and has to transform into something else to become a better dad, and pretty much plagiarized it to make the Tooth Fairy. And I can't say I disagree with Hollywood because I love this movie too. It's a movie that has a good loving heart, but also a pretty smart brain in terms of how it handles the wife and divorce plot. One thing that I love about this movie, I think it might be my favorite thing about it, especially as an adult, is how it handles Tim Allen's, or Scott Calvin as he's a character, his divorce with his wife. Now, his wife starts seeing someone else, a psychologist, and in any other movie, I can imagine that the plot would go, Tim Allen becomes Santa, becomes a better dad, and wins his wife back. That would be in some other movie, and they'd also probably make the psychologist a real jerk and have a crowd pleaser scene where she's like, "I'm done with you," and she gets with Tim Allen. But that's not this movie. The wife and their relationship isn't just some reward for the protagonist. She has some agency in the narrative. Her love for the psychologist is valid. Her want to divorce from Tim Allen is still valid. And also, later on in the movie, Tim Allen's character has to admit that the psychologist is a good dad for his son. The narrative doesn't revolve around the protagonist. The wife has agency, her feelings matter. There's maturity in that. There's some good jokes in this that still make me laugh, and some more cheesy Christmassy jokes that I of course smile at because the Christmas cheer. And when you watch the sequels, the second one is kind of okay, but the third one is a washout. It's not worth it. But watching the sequels, you realize how much the maturity in this movie does for it. It really earns that sappy Christmas cheer when I think the second one is a bit too drenched in sap to take seriously. But this one is a great balance. I really like the Santa Claus. Okay, next up is probably the one you've all been waiting for because I know negativity sells. This is the Christmas movie that I have hated since I was a kid, and it's Grandma Got Ran Over by a Reindeer. The country music soundtrack might as well have killed it for me as a kid. Growing up in Texas, I heard way too much of that stuff. And I remember this one scene where the stupid protagonist and also the stupid ugly elf are flying over the town, and it's painfully whimsical, and along with the country music, as a kid I practically was gritting my teeth during that scene. I also just find it to be a cheap-looking, ugly movie. It kinda looks like What's New Scooby-Doo, except without the appealing character designs. I really hate Jake Spankenheimer's face. In fact, I just really hate Jake Spankenheimer. The way that in that one scene he roller skates through a building, like he's just sitting in an elevator. Does he really have to roller skate? They try to make him so cool. But he misses the mark so hard that I just can't stand being around him for even 30 minutes, let alone the whole movie.
Oh yeah!
So anyways, what happens in this story, and I have to go over spoilers to explain this, Grandma got ran over by a reindeer, and I feel like my brain was ran over by a bus. Anyways, Santa's reindeer ends up running over Grandma with the sleigh, and he's like, oh no, I gotta save her. But rather than taking her to a hospital or something sane, he kidnaps her in the North Pole. But it's okay because he wrote a little note that can be easily blown away in the wind, covered up by snow, and have all the ink smeared so there's no discernible meaning there. Okay, so there's one of the many as in this movie. Santa's practically a psycho with this plan. Watching this as an adult, I side with the antagonists who are trying to sue him. In the movie, the grandpa is one of the only people, along with the protagonist, who thinks that Grandma is still out there, even though he sings the song Grandma Spending Christmas with the Superstars and lists people like Elvis. So they had to shove the actual album that this is based on into the movie, even if it makes no sense in terms of the characters. His character thinks she's alive, but he sings about her being dead and hanging out with Elvis. Unless he thinks that Grandma Elvis and Tupac are partying on some island. Also, a lot of the jokes are too cheesy to swallow, and I can watch old Hanna-Barbera stuff and get a kick out of those cheesy gags, but it's just too much here. Not to mention a lot of the humor in this is just bad.
Santa Claus is responsible for Grandma's disappearance. So, if the beard fits, you must convict.
An innocent life was lost. Grandma Got Ran Over by a Reindeer is one of the first pieces of media I remember hating as a kid. And it didn't help, it was a Christmas special. Week after week in December, year after year on Cartoon Network, they aired it over and over. So if I couldn't find something else to watch or something else to do, well, I was stuck watching that. This is the kind of movie that came on TV and you ran away from home as a kid. It doesn't matter if you forgot your jacket and it was freezing cold out, anything was better than watching it. Remember when Nickelodeon did those days of play where they aired nothing in hopes that kids would go outside and not change the channel? Well, they should have aired this. This would get any kid to play outside. Okay, I need to chill out, and what better way to do so than to talk about the ultimate, my best, my favorite, most nostalgic Christmas special / movie, Olive the Other Reindeer. This is like the opposite of Grandma Got Ran Over. Every time this aired, I made sure to watch it as a kid. I loved it. It defined the Christmas time for me, just as Scary Godmother as a kid defined Halloween time. The story is that Santa's not sure he can make Christmas this year and says that he's gonna need all of the other reindeer to pull through. And Olive's best friend, a flea, gets in her head that he said Olive, the other reindeer, so Olive sets out to save Christmas. It's such a cute premise, and there are other characters with Lady Montegreen names like that.
I used to think the Pledge of Allegiance was about me, Richard Stans.
It's not?
So that makes it kind of obvious that this is based off of a picture book, I'm pretty sure. And as just a nerd, that sort of humor and punny names really appeal to me. I'm a Phoenix Wright fan, of course I eat that stuff up. But beyond the writing, it's such a pleasure to look at, very inspired. It's like a Parappa the Rapper style, the characters are 2D cutouts in a 3D world. It's so striking, and this is just a one-off special. It's surprising to see this strong visual identity in something that was made for TV. The writing is good. I know Rebel Taxi mentioned this in his review, but about the penguin, how he's a shyster sort of scammer guy, but he doesn't become a good guy at the end, or well, he helps Olive, but he's not a conventional good guy. He's still a scammer by the end of the movie. And that not only makes it feel more down to earth and genuine about its characters, but it also just makes the world feel alive. He doesn't undergo an arc like a movie, he just is who he is. You know, by having him stay like that, it's not like, well, like a movie arc. It feels like there's a living world beyond just the glimpse we're given of it in this feature. The songs are pretty good. I don't think they're necessarily great, but some will get stuck in my head every now and then, like We're Not So Bad especially, and Christmas, Ball, Bug, and Hum, the Mailman song. Which, speaking of We're Not So Bad, that kind of reminds me of the Penguin character, because that song takes place, well, it's a kid's movie, but we understand that it takes place in a bar, you know, now. And in that song, there's some shifty looking characters, and it just doesn't feel like an excessively kiddie movie. But it still has that cutesy charm, especially in Olive. You gotta love how she looks, and her cute voice and her cute character. And it just has that, but also like that Christmas cheer factor that is a key part in these becoming classics, but it doesn't feel excessively hokey. You know, I just really love this movie. This is probably the Christmas movie that I've rewatched the most, not just including when I was a kid, which thankfully Cartoon Network aired over and over, as they should. I hope they still do, but even as an adult, I try to watch this whenever I can during Christmas. As a kid, you like Christmas for a different reason than as an adult, but as an adult, I still find myself reflecting on these Christmas movies, and they make me feel warm inside, especially Olive. Olive is such a comfort watch for me. It's something that I've seen over and over again, like a chair I've sat in so much and I know it in and out. It just brings me so much comfort. It's hard to love Christmas as much as you did when you were a kid, and I think that nostalgia is part of what makes Christmas for adults, or at least I find it for me. And I experienced that when rewatching some old classics like these. Like, especially easy ones to just pop on, like Johnny Bravo. I'm sure there's a lot of you who have a TV show Christmas special that you love to turn on, and it's just a quick 30-minute watch, but it really makes your Christmas, doesn't it? You know, just that comfort. And for me, nothing compares to Olive the Other Reindeer. That is my ultimate Christmas media. What's yours? Please tell me down below. But no matter what, have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and thank you so much for spending any of it with me watching this video. Either way, guys, take care.